Heroes and Heroines, and welcome to Practising Programming in C, in which we're doing a bit more of Cinera's config file parsing stuff. Once I've taken a sip of water. So we were at a situation yesterday where we'd realised that apparently we were failing to absorb fields correctly. We spotted this observation, essentially. Owners didn't seem to get absorbed, and when we include risky, as in specifically this one here, when we include this, the outer file, as in this, fails to absorb any people at all. So when you come into here, project, when you come into this project here, it fails to absorb these guys, annotators owner. I think I figured out why. Sort of realised while I was AFK, as if being at the keyboard is the default state. I think I've realised what the problem is here. And I think I've also realised that there's another problem that has always been kind of niggling away at me in terms of it is sort of to do with the absorption of fields, but really it's to do with setting up the type spec of scopes. So what I think I'll do, first of all, I'm going to just try this solution that I think it's just right here actually. I'm going to try this solution, then I'm going to describe what was happening and why it was failing. I think all I need to do, because we've got two scope trees here. We're comparing. We've got our current scope tree. So this is the scope tree into which we are absorbing fields, and we're absorbing fields from our parents. This line here is supposed to this line here is supposed to prevent us from absorbing siblings, essentially. So if you've got a project, so like here we've got a good example of siblings. Project equals risk. When you come into this scope, absorb fields is essentially going to be taking its parent, which is this scope, and it goes through all of the, first of all it goes through all the trees, it goes through all the pairs, in pairs, bool pairs. And if well, in the case of all of these guys, it just straight up copies all the pairs, the regular pairs. But if the scope that you spot is of the same type, the rule currently is that you don't copy the scope. You don't copy that scope down. Right. But I think yeah, like I said, I'll try this solution, then I'll just talk through fully what's going on. But that's the gist of it. It's just, this is supposed to prevent siblings getting absorbed into. So what is it going to be? ID value, I think it might be. Would that be right? Yeah, this is a strings match call. Want to wrap that? Okay. So just double check. You can see here that this is under double interval 0. I'm suspicious of this because we're definitely setting the update interval at the root scope. Right, we're doing the update interval there. Handmade array is here. Update interval equals 8. Yeah, and also, well, no, it can't be possible that we just haven't processed this bit yet for the resolve strings. So yeah, this is unexpected to me. Let's explain what I thought was happening. Right. The rule was when you're absorbing fields, for this person here, for example, this project risk, you're supposed to go up to your parent, absorbing all of the fields within that parent. And what you just absorb, you just copy the field straight into our own scope tree. But if that scope tree, so this is a scope tree because it's got a thing. This is a scope tree because it's got a thing. If the scope tree ID, if the scope tree type is the same as us, do not absorb that in, because essentially what would happen if you were to try to absorb that in is that you'd end up with this, right? And you don't want that to happen, so that's what this is supposed to be preventing. Oh. That's probably what's not quite right, actually. I'm going to have to handle this a bit differently. Rather than copying the whole thing in, I should have to actually go into it and copy in the contents of that scope, but not including the actual scope itself. Yeah, so that isn't quite right, what I've tried to do there. That isn't the simple solution. So yeah, I think I need to separate this out a little bit further. Essentially, just do a little to do for it, and I'll continue to talk through what's actually, what other stuff is in play here. if that makes sense. Absorb the contents of a scope that shares already, excluding the scope itself. Right. Basically, at the moment, all we're trying to do... Well, hang on. Absorb the contents of a scope that shares our ID and... well, I suppose it's just the entire ID. Right. Currently, we just straight up disallow. We straight up don't absorb the contents of a scope. Well, we don't absorb a scope at all. If its ID key matches ours, and I'll just try and explain what's a bit further what's going on. I think also I can get rid of this. That's how it was, I reckon. So what was going on? We had this idea here, right? I suppose I should put them the other way around. So on the left hand side we've got our main config file. Where's my cursor? Right, this is the main config file. This is the file that is going to be including this. We come through it. We add all these tokens to our thing. Well, I mean, actually, technically, we tokenize all of this, and then we go through parsing it into the scope tree. When we see this, we tokenize this thing and add it to the and then kind of pass these tokens into the scope tree at the location that we're currently at, right? So essentially this thing gets replaced with this. So in the scope tree, where you would usually see a scope include equals thingamajig, we don't output this. We output the contents of this, right? So it's essentially just replacing that. So we're replacing this with this. So what happens is, we get to this, we stuff these guys onto the scope tree, and then, most interestingly, we stuff this thing onto the scope tree. So if you imagine there's like this tree with children, this thing gets pushed on, this thing gets pushed on, this thing gets pushed onto this, that is. These are two scopes, and then these string pairs get pushed onto this scope tree. Now if you remember, we have the whole absorption stuff. So this, when we paste this into here, this also absorbs whatever a project can contain. Can't contain a medium, so it won't contain those. Can't contain a person, so it can contain a medium actually. So it'll absorb all of these mediums, and they'll just be sitting at the top level scope within this. It can contain all of the stuff up here as well. Right, update until 4. It's gonna contain all of this crap. It's not going to contain a support because a support scope is not a valid field in the project scope. Right, so it's absorbing all of that stuff. So this thing ends up with a great big copy of all the stuff. This thing, when we come into here, it absorbs all those fields from here. So get that again gets another copy, and then these things get added on. Right. So if you imagine, let's just ignore these bits for now. We've got this project risky here. what we're essentially saying here is that this gets pasted in over this, right? So you're ending up essentially with that. Now, and also all the absorb stuff as well, so it's going to have the mediums pasted in to there. We add that to this, we add this scope to the root scope tree. We then go down to the project equals hero, add this to the projects, to the root scope tree. We continue going down, we add the person to scope tree. And then here we go, we've got a project equals risky. Recall actually about the absorption of stuff. When we see this, similarly to how this was this guy was absorbing all the mediums and all the stuff up at the file. The rule currently is that it absorbs scopes that it can validly contain, unless that scope is the same type as ourselves. Right? Does that make sense? And we sort of had to have that rule because a project can contain projects, so we had to have some way of sort of saying, don't absorb your siblings. Right? So after having added this project, we get to here. This guy's going to be absorbing, and it goes through and it says, it sees this scope and it kind of goes, well, is this scope the same type as us? It'll see that it is, so it doesn't absorb it. Carry on going down here. We've got a project equals risky. Right? The intention of this essentially is that these get absorbed into whoa, that's the, hang on a minute, should there not be a project risky? Well, that's not right, is it? Maybe it's okay, actually. I think I can still continue with this description as to what will happen. I think I can. So yeah, okay, we come down to here. Let us just say, for the sake of argument, actually, that, well, let us just say that we wanted to do this, right? The idea being that the risky project is owned by Miyatatsu, right? So the intention is, so this thing was set in here, and we'll just put that in here as well. Right, so the intention is that somebody other than the actual main administrator sets these guys here. Right. The intention is that when the main project thing gets set, it also incorporates the stuff, these guys here. Right. Now you remember our rule about scopes not absorbing their siblings. That's exactly what's going to happen here, right? We're going to come into here and we're going to try and absorb the stuff. essentially absorb the scopes, the strings and the ints and the bools that are contained within the root scope. We want to absorb all of that stuff that our project can contain, but we don't want to absorb a sibling. And that particular rule sort of kiboshes our ability to actually get this lot pasted into here. Right? That's what we need to be solving, and that's why we're not seeing well, what was it we were seeing? Really? Bloody hell. Was not at the it's absorbed, isn't it? Yeah, I find that the owner never gets absorbed. And that is well, I presume that's because of this rule here, not absorbing siblings. Right. Let's try not to shut down the machine. So there we see the annotator. We're always missing the owner, aren't we? Well, I can search for owner, can't I? So there we get the owner, Miyatatsu. Title, risky business. So yeah, this is going to be for the the untitled risky. Yeah, right, which is this thing here. I suppose also technically, because we're now, well, we shouldn't have it this at all, because we're including it. When we include risky in the outer file, nobody gets absorbed, I think is the note, isn't it? Photos of many people, yeah, okay. That's due to this. I think let's also just put this back into the thing. Pretty sure those guys were there. The idea here being that all the projects under risky have these things set. So this thing's going to absorb it, this thing will absorb it. So yeah, we're only ever seeing owner once, and it's probably going to be within that risky thing. This could be a separate problem actually. Maybe. Because we're not talking about siblings in this case. We're talking about fields. Let's tackle this part of it first. Right, here we go. So this is unfortunate. Yeah, this isn't what I thought was happening. What I thought was happening was that essentially the bit that I didn't realise was happening here is this specifically. I didn't realise that we are actually allocating a new thing for the fields. So it's possible that the fields is actually correct. Field is still local equals true. Where is that field being got from? I think the field should be being got from, yeah, the parents type spec. So maybe the field stuff is correct. But if the field stuff is correct, I don't understand why I have to be doing reset field. I do watch the other, don't I? Yeah, reset fields. Oh no, that's probably right actually, isn't it? Is it? I think what I'd like to do is just sort of eyeball the type specs. I'm just ensure that we're not actually modifying the canonical things. Let's use the project one because we know we've got multiple projects. So I'm going. I know that projects can contain projects. I mean, one of the problems here is that we're not actually absorbing any of these things. So they aren't going to count, are they? I think the medium is being absorbed, isn't it? I should double check that actually. And also, since we're talking about absorption, we're really talking about the scope tree. So we wanted to look at just the scope tree, which is this. So yeah, our mediums are getting absorbed. Oh, there we go. Actually, let me Mutatsu. So reader. Yeah, and these guys are getting that. So yeah, maybe the resolution is just busted. Should there be another person? Maybe they're getting added after the mediums. This person is getting added, does he? Don't think. There's a person Miyatatsu. I suppose it could be coming after the Project Hero. Oh yeah, it could totally be coming after that. And after Project Code and Project Ray. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to need a way to actually null these guys out, aren't we? We can't have those being absorbed incorrectly. Just continue though. We then come into risky. Here we've got Miotatsu Miblo and Miotatsu set. Miotatsu Miblo, Miotatsu again. Yeah, and then again. So it seems like all of the sub-projects are actually correctly absorbing this information. We're still wrong about the including of siblings. We do definitely still need to handle that. We are getting the annotator through. We're always getting the annotator, and the note was we're just now getting the owner through. Well, it's push product, isn't it? Yeah, it just seems like get owner, get person ain't working, doesn't it? Like, at all. Is that true? Well, actually, no, we are getting the owner for the original guy, aren't we? Remember, as we saw, that these are getting absorbed down. This is being set for that, the product above Riscalanius, which is the outer untitled risky thing. How is owner actually... I mean, in this first instance, oh shit, this ain't right. That's our problem. Well, that was easy. Jesus Christ. Nice little typo there. So now I think everybody's got the owner correctly set. Now I think I still want to look at the thing I was wanting to look at, which is it's essentially in the init type specs. Let's run to this. So it's the default medium. And then I'm going to set another breakpoint. Well, actually, not even sure what this thing even contains. Actually, I suppose we could just do it right up at the top as soon as we get the field. See what's going on. Really? Oh, did I actually not save it? So yeah. So it's only ever going to be added for projects. So let's step into this. What am I getting here actually? Can I print out the address of this? Basically what I want to see is that we don't end up with something that has we don't end up operating directly on this address. I just want us to see when we go to set is set locally in the push scopes, I want to see that we've got a different address here. By the way, it's the 28th anniversary of Slint's Spiderland. Amazing album. If you haven't heard it, you should definitely go and buy it. I'm listening to the original master of it, the original, probably the CD master of it. But they released a remaster a few years ago. And by a remaster, I mean it's a slight remix as well. I assume, anyway. I think they did a bit of mixing. I don't know. Maybe it was simply just a remaster. So we've got that there. Pretty sure we set our other breakpoint, didn't we? I think I should be able to see this already, shouldn't I? So yeah, it's definitely different. Right. 1E0 and D20. Probably the next time through as well. When we see this field, we should be into a different scope. So I think then again, we should have a different value for this the next time through. Unfortunately, I've gone and lost it. Yeah, and then we've got another different value. So yeah, okay, so that's actually, that's just fine, which is what I want to see. But guess what I don't understand is why I need to do reset fields still. So if we're entering a new scope, if it's included, we do this special processing of it. If it's just a regular scope, we do this. So we're trying to find a parent scope. Oh, actually, yeah, actually, we're never going to set. So in the case of the projects, we're never going to actually hit. We're going to end up following this branch here, because a project is not a singleton. Is that right? Is that what I'm talking about? Oh, it just returns different things depending on what it is. So if it's a singleton, which it isn't, it would have to match the entire ID and thingamajig. So won't that mean that when you hit this, you'll hit this? Is that what I wanted to be doing? Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what to make of this. If we can get the scope. When we see a opening parenthesis, which is what's going on here, you know, we're passing a scope. Don't we always want to be just set, you know, don't we always want to be pushing a scope onto the parent? Like, why would we want to be getting this? Oh, it's something with singletons, wasn't it? So yeah. Like, none of these guys bothers to use the search. Parent then set that to that. might have to go back and actually watch the video, try and find when I did this reset field stuff. Or rather, when I did this little thing here. So I'm not exactly sure that that's... I'm not exactly sure what it's trying to do. So there's our untitled risky, which is this risky thing out here. I wonder if this was supposed to be was this supposed to have something to do with the include stuff? This is probably going to be the root scope, isn't it now? Well, no. Risky title equals something. So there we've got two risky title equals something. Which is fine actually, because this hasn't got title. Let's just disambiguate those two. So this title equals risky business, and the guy above it should be title risky equals nothing. Risky title equals nothing rather. Yeah. Unit is not set. Is that as expected? Yeah, I suppose that is as expected. Yeah, it's only hammered here that gets the unit set. Well, yeah, and then this is bogus because this is just testing the correctly disallowing project to be included within support. Right, yeah. And it was this guy that was supposed to be setting the unit, who we're not currently including. And I think this is all broken actually, isn't it? The including a project, the sibling inclusion isn't working, I don't think. Unless, like I say, it's something to do with this line, handling that. So risky business is appearing once. What's its default medium set to? That'll be interesting to see, because this title risky business should be related to this. Or rather, what is the unit set to? Because we don't set the unit down in the lower thing. We do set the default medium, so the default medium probably will be run. Yeah, but what's the unit? Yeah, the unit is also not set. So we're not correctly absorbing this stuff, which we knew about. Tell you what might be an idea actually, what might be instructive, is to just let this condition pass and just see what's going on, see where we are when we do that condition. Break into it, just see what the situation is. And let's leave that unincluded, commented out. It is a support. So what do we have access to here? We've got access to the tree. So the tree is containing. So support is a type of is a scope. So the first thing here is a support. So a support is a support. And that's a person. This should fail, shouldn't it? Okay, yes, we've got enough space for it, but it's just uninitialized. Or rather, it's zero initialized. So the first one was Patreon, second one was PayPal. So what we're talking about there is Patreon and PayPal. We're talking about those two supports. And then I think we are probably in the person Miblo trying to absorb the supports. Could that be right? Got one support Patreon there, one support PayPal there. We're not even. Well, I mean, I suppose we are actually, aren't we? Yeah, right. So it's probably this actually. It's where we are. So we're trying to. I guess we could probably verify this actually. If we look at the tokens, exactly sure how you do this. This is just uninitialized, by the way. So we've got a token string, risky.tv. Yeah, right, so this is where we are. So we're now currently, we've seen this support and we're understanding this to be a scope correctly. So we're coming into this path here. Right. It's a scope. It's not an include scope, it's another kind of a scope. And we're trying to get our parent. So on the Patreon, yes, it's the first one. So this thing here is out of the main file. Right. This isn't in here. This is out here. So do we do this? Pushing the scope on. So receiving this. This is looking up into this person's parent to see if it can get a support scope matching this from that parent. And it's found that. This. Now I think this is actually where I've got this wrong. I think rather than setting it directly, I feel like I need to push it on differently. You know, I feel like I need to push on a new thing. And absorb the fields. Because the reason I'm having to reset these fields here is that these guys have already been set up here. But I don't really want that to be happening. I don't think. Do I? I think I would like to preserve the fact. Oh, actually, does that actually matter? Actually, I tell you what, it probably doesn't matter. Actually, we don't really care about preserving the fact that these guys are set, because when we come to absorb if we have to absorb this again, we're just going to again reset the fields. So that probably doesn't actually matter. So yes, we don't care about doing that. And if when we see that later scope, actually, I'll tell you what might be a bit wrong actually, because what's going to happen is when we come through and pass this support PayPal, this very thing is going to be this, or rather, when we do this is going to, you know, in setting this parent to be a pointer to the original thing, we're then going to be operating on this information in the context of this, which I don't think is right. Is it? Because if we, for example here, in the PayPal thing, right, it's going to happen again with the PayPal. This is at the root scope, it's the support PayPal. We've got sprite support.png set there. If I can get back to this file. When we get to this little part here is going to find, when we see the support PayPal here, this get scope call is going to get this actual thing. It's going to point directly into this, right? Which means that when we then descend to here to set the URL, we'll be setting the URL for this actual guy, right? Which means that anybody else who wants to include PayPal will get that whole thing set. Right? Isn't that correct? Let's just see if I can eyeball that. Well, maybe it's not. So maybe that's completely maybe I analysed that completely wrong, because you can see here, annotator Miblo. It's got my name. It's got Patreon. It's correctly resolved the Patreon / Miblo. Although we're going to have a way to actually tell it that we don't have the Patreon support. We don't have the Patreon thingamajig. We need a better way of actually setting those guys. But you can see, like in the PayPal one, we only get the sprite thing, whereas Mio gets sprite thingy. Yeah, that's a bit oh, Mio's got two lots of dudes. That shouldn't be happening, should it? Right, he's getting Patreon, PayPal, and then he's got Patreon with nothing set, and then PayPal. Is that just from an old run of the program when this wasn't actually happening? I think it was. So that's what that was doing. And the PayPal thing seems to be okay. Okay, so maybe this whole routine is actually okay. So the purpose of this then we've just established is to make sure that we don't duplicate yeah, it's to make sure we don't duplicate things, and it also somehow manages to account for the fact that these guys shouldn't inherit this. Blimey. So I suppose we just trust that it is working. I'm not exactly sure how to describe this though. It's like, I would like to make a note. But I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's basically... It's roughly that, but that's hardly the most informative thing in the world. So yeah, maybe we are okay. So let's just go back to the thing that we were having a trouble with before. Absorb the content of the scope that shares our entire ID key and value, excluding the scope itself. So what we're trying to do here is the following. We're going to parse this stuff in before we get to here. Parse it into the scope tree. This is going to be at the same scope level as this. It's going to be at the root scope level because the include happens at the root scope level. We pass this into the root scope. When we come to this risky project here, what we need to do is change our rule so that we can actually detect that this is the same thing as us, right? And absorb all of its contents, but not including itself. Then, when we come into this one, well, this is going to absorb all its contents, including this, right? Including this scope. So when we come to see this, we know that similarly to how we were absorbing this guy's siblings' contents, we want to absorb, we don't want to create a new one of these. All we do is we absorb this bit of information here before doing our stuff. Actually, let's put on some, I've got some customer coal. Which is the album with 15 minutes? This one. Alright, 50 minutes. So we could be going until 2 o'clock in the morning. Two o'clock in the morning to do essentially one if. So, if the field is in spec, then there's a possibility that we want to absorb it. If the key is not the same as our key, then we can just straight up copy the scope. Otherwise, the key is the same as us. If our ID value matches that of our parent, and implicitly our ID key matches it too, and it's not the parent either, it's like our sibling, then we want to copy the scope contents. That's all it is, really. Right? So we should be seeing now that the risky business project should have the unit set to the chapter. Oh, well, we don't. Cool. See if we ever get there. Well, stopping. So let's take a look first of all. This is exactly as we'd expect. Probably risky, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, and you can see because this second project equals risky here, you know that we're talking about well, we can actually probably see. So interestingly, we're talking about this situation here. Is that what I expect? Oh, well, no, that isn't right. I was going to say, well, this, unfortunately, this project matches that. Is that what I'm checking on, actually? Is that incorrectly what I'm checking on? I don't think it should be. I think what we're trying to do here, absorb fields, we're going to try and... So we're in here, right? We're going over its parent trees, which is this dude. So this person's parent... sorry, this person's trees, of which we are one. Well, at least of which we will be one when we get added. Actually, let's just have a look at the parent. See how uncannily similar those guys are. Do we have to disambiguate the bases? This and the parent are different, right? Which is fair enough. But the parent's tree's eye. What's that exactly? Yeah, okay, so that's exactly the same as this. That's unfortunate. Basically, we're just going to be duplicating the same contents into ourselves. I suppose we could check that we are not the actual child that we're trying to loop over. Maybe you do have to do that? Interesting, we never get there now. So we get there once. Just establish this. We're actually talking about the same thing. Do we get there again? We do get there again, which is nice to see. Now let's see if these things are the same. This is there. They are the same again. Am I correct to assume that they shouldn't be the same? Maybe I'm not actually. I suppose what we could do, just to see exactly what's going on, it's going to be a bit tough, because it's going to be a case of eyeballing it. Tree. Okay. This feels very familiar. I'm sure I've done this once before as well. And this is in the resolving thingamajigs thingy. So, sorry, it's in the scoping the tokens. So, oh, I suppose also. Well, again, also, I only want to be checking this. In this case here. So this is going to be fun. CSS path. Can I go down? No, of course I can't. So we got medium equals drawing. Oh shit. Did I try and paste accidentally? Right. I think that looks right. And in fact, now that I think about it, I don't need to eyeball it. I can actually do like a new file. Drafter. Right. Then well, let's continue onto there and step past print scope tree. Copy our dudes over again. Well, let's just check. So I got down to Mio's support equals Patreon. What's that? What is that? Right. And now we've got down to the rants. So we've got the entirety of ranting. Jesus. God, I hope this works. In fact, is that going to be correct? Oops. Yeah, it's not actually necessarily going to be correct, is it? Because it's more than one rant. It's probably that rant that we've got down to. So we've got down to the AFK icon. There. Apologies if this is making absolutely no sense, by the way. Just have to kind of concentrate on what the hell is going on. So now that we've done that, let's just diff them. This might be right, actually. How do you do this folding business? Shit. Oh, right. You can do it like that. But then when you do that, you can't go further down. Third person Miyatatsu. So this is the root scope, isn't it? So we really need to get down to a project. Did that even do what I thought it was supposed to be doing? Did I even record what I was trying to do? What I was trying to do was trying to see what happens when you come into here. I don't think I did. I don't think I actually caught that, did I? Mind you, I did. Pretty sure I did step to this, didn't I? Right, that looks like a similar amount of content. Let's just see how many times you actually go through there. 3, 4, and then it continues. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I want to be expecting that to be hit 15 times. Is that right? Did it hit that case 15 times? Times. What we should be expecting to see there, or what I'm trying to actually detect, is siblings, right, that had the same ID value. We don't have that happening 14 times, do we? Basically what I'm saying is, if you do this, right, this should be detected. Does that increase it to 15 for a start? Ah, okay, so I'm doing the wrong test. Right. That was easy to figure out. We're pushing a new scope onto a parent. And then absorbing the fields of our parent. So we start off in this scope here, come down, we realise that we've hit a scope here, so we're into this situation. Well, I mean, it's possible that we're actually getting into here for some reason. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it sort of seemed like this was bogus. So, projects are not singletons. Might be interesting to see actually what we end up with in terms of this situation. I think I would expect us to see. So because this stuff ain't working, I think what I'd expect to see here is, I think I should certainly expect to see risky business 2. But should I see the default medium set to run? I don't know that. I don't know if I should or not. We do see risky business 2, and the default medium is set to run. Or I definitely think it's one of them. That's as it should work. So is it actually working? Oops. I think we're finding that the unit wasn't set, weren't we? Because we thought that inside the include file, this should be setting the unit for this risky project. But weren't we finding that wasn't happening? Yeah, it hasn't absorbed the unit, has it? Yeah, we never see unit equals chapter. possible that the default medium getting included from somewhere else as well. Oh, actually, hang on a minute. Was it commented out? Was it commented out when we saved it? I don't think it was. So let's go look at default medium, can't we? Just for fun. You see what happened there, right? Setting the unit in an included file wasn't allowed. So that's why it wasn't coming through. We were just too smart for our own good. I mean, at least it's nice to see that the actual permission stuff works. Programming. I mean, you just gotta be, it's so... I mean, this is one of the benefits and the pitfalls of writing your own stuff, right? When you write your own stuff, you do have all the information in your mind, what's going on. So it will be available to you. It's just a case of like trying to tap into that memory and just recalling what's going on. You know, it's your responsibility to do it. When you don't do your own stuff, you just have to sort of try and get yourself into other people's mindsets, kind of. And that's less accessible to you because it's, by definition, it's not your mind, is it? So you kind of have to do a bunch of like, a bunch of reading or a bunch of learning. The stuff has to be really well documented. Or you just read the source. But I think after all that, we're doing it right, aren't we? And I think now, that's thanks to... I think it is thanks to this little thing here, this copy scope contents. I think we do need this. I mean, if it turns out we don't need that, then that'd be pretty hilarious. Well, unit chapter, that's popped up. What do you expect that to be happening? Because we're essentially talking about, well, our issue is that the owner wasn't getting absorbed, wasn't it? when we include risky, the risky in the outer file never gets any, but and this is the outer file, never gets anybody set. Fails to absorb any people. That was what we were finding. I think that's what we're finding here, isn't it? Like, these are not getting the annotator or the owner set. Well, there's the owner, and there is the annotator. This is for the project book. Ah, I think, yeah. Well, there's the annotator and annotator for project risky. Where's risky business 1? Let's take a look at that because we know what that is. Risky business 1. We know that this is a thing that has a corresponding sibling that we included. Because you see, teacher has such a Linux desktop like yours. Sure. So, do I have this? Yeah, unfortunately I don't. How can I get this? I need a good way to actually get a web browser open that doesn't actually reveal a lot of stuff. I think it's also under testing, and then it's not there. In fact, it might not be there at all. It might just be straight in sysadmin. Yeah. So we'll see if this can copy into the chat. So this has a few kind of Pacman invocations, right? So you're asking about any packages needed. One of these down here should be a Pacman line. It should include stuff like Fluxbox. In fact, if you search for Pacman, it's Pacman Vim. So Pacman Tmux is one of the things you'll need. MPD, NCMP, CPP, Ranger, WeChat, and Qt Browser. These are sort of things I've got open at the moment. WeChat is the IRC client that you can see I'm using down here. Yeah, and then it's basically this here. So you got Fluxbox. You're going to need X as well, obviously. That's the main thing, Fluxbox. Also, this thing over here is Conky. I think that should be somewhere in here, maybe. Yeah, there's Conky going in there. So the things that you are looking at here, right? You got the Fluxbox window manager. You've got Tmux. Tmux is this, it's the thing that's containing a bunch of things here, right? So it's the thing that allows me to, you see this at the top here, this is part of Tmux, and it's saying that there's 8 tabs available to me, essentially. So I can like move between them. within this window here, what you're seeing at the top is Vim. Right, these two kind of little panes here is Vim. This thing on the right is just your own shell. It's just this is what your prompt is. I'm using ZSH for the prompt. And then down at the bottom here you can see WeChat. So those are the things that you're seeing here. And on the right hand side you've got Conky. So those are some of the things. I think in order to get tmux looking like this, because I think by default tmux puts its tab bar down at the bottom, I think, and it isn't quite coloured like this. Fluxbox's default style is also not black, I don't think. So I'll need to give you my dot files for that. Conky also doesn't look like this at all when it's by default, so I'll give you my dot files for that too. And also, unfortunately, WeChat doesn't look like this either by default. Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. I think I did find that I couldn't figure out how to share. I didn't figure out how to share my tmux config without revealing like private information. Let's see if I can get to this. Yeah. Now I don't believe. Yeah, WeChat won't be in here. And also, this is it's a little bit out of date as well, actually. So you might have to. Your mileage may vary. Which should give you a starting point. tmux conf. This should give you. Yeah, I think this Windows status thing. This is for the current thing. This line here, I don't have this anymore because I'm using the package from the repository. Oh, and also the distribution, by the way, is Arch Linux. I don't know if you could derive that from this little thing up here. I know. So these things also here are telling it to sort of start up tmux by kind of giving you a bunch of tabs. So you'd have to manually set them up yourself. Conky should be in here too, yeah. Let's see if I can figure out if this is like an old version or not. I think this might be. Yeah, I think this is current. Because I used to have you see these guys down here. It's actually obscured by my face, unfortunately. But, in fact I can just move it over for you so you can see. You see these guys down here, I used to have them laid out in like this crazy shape. It was basically like a little circle. And the reason for that was, it was to sort of follow the contour of this old desktop wallpaper that I used to have. It's for Fedora. Let's see if I can show you that. Exactly sure where. Okay, we might have it under here. Yeah, it's for this. Right. So this thing, it's a higher resolution. It had this thing down in the bottom right corner. So I had this little monitor following the contours of this thing. But yeah, this configuration doesn't do that. You can tell because the the go-to32, go-to24. These things are just telling it to go to set places. So yeah, I've got all of that. I think you might also need Inconsolato actually as well. That's the font I'm using here. That's also mentioned in the sysadmin thing. Pretty sure that's the package name for it. Fluxbox is quite a bit of stuff. I guess the keys are the most interesting thing with this, I suppose. Do I really use? I mean, I used to use this a bit more often. Before I started to use Tmux, I did do a fair bit of like moving stuff around in the window manager using keys. So I've got like Alt, Super, and L. It just positions the thing up there, and it also resizes it to be this size, right? It just does that. That's just one of the things I like to do. Alt, Super, and C puts it in the center. Alt, Super, and V sort of makes it vertically. It toggles the vertical maximization of it. I'm not exactly sure what's happened here. Maybe Chromium just captured one of those keys. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. What else do I have? Yeah, I can't remember what the keys I actually use in here. I think I used to do like Alt, Super, Shift, and L. I think maybe. So that moves it to there for some reason. But like I don't use that anymore. I think was it this? Yeah, C moves it to the. It just moves it to the center. Yeah, there's a few of these I just don't really use anymore. But yeah, there's just weird stuff like that. Does Alt Shift and J do anything? So Alt Shift and J moves it down to there, and then I had Alt Shift and K moves it to there. So it's like the bottom right extreme corner and the bottom and the top right corner. Like for some reason, this is historical now. For some reason, I just used to do that sort of stuff. I think it was when I was on a smaller screen, and I just wanted to like, I don't know, just a bit more constrained for space. So you just stick stuff in specific places. Nowadays, I don't really do that so much. Although I still do use this actually. It's kind of handy, but it's very specific to what I want to do. Yeah, then I guess that's it really. Got you MBD config. That's possibly out of date now. Zathura is the PDF reader that I use. Ranger is the file manager. So this is this dude here. This is the recording of this stream. So yeah, this stream's been going 2.61 gig. Running a bit out of space, you can see by the way, 23 gig left. So I'm gonna have to get a new drive at some point. Range is really cool. It's just sort of a 3-panel thing, but it's like, you know, you can see you've got your parent directory over here, your current directory here, and you've got like a little sort of preview window just to show you what this file is all about. It also shows like images as well. So if it's slightly busted, but if I go to this screenshots directory, so I took a screenshot of Yeah. For some reason, I took a screenshot of that. Oh, that was just showing that the Cinera's check something is working. And this was a screenshot that I tweeted about when we went from Linux 4.20.13 to Linux 5, which was, I mean, in Linux land, it's just a regular old version number. Like, it wasn't anything special. But I think outside of Linux, that sort of a jump looks like, wow, it's like a new version. But it's just like a run-of-the-mill update. It's a bit broken because, yeah, you can see, I don't know if this gets captured, but you can see that it's a bit maybe you can see it's scrambled. That was just from going back to the recordings tab up here, which is where the video recording is happening, and then going back to the screenshots, and yeah, it's just scrambled, so it's a bit busted. But it's cool. It's written in Python, so it's kind of like really memory hungry. I think if I close Chromium, you should be able to see. Can I close Chromium? You can see it's using 42 meg, so it's a file browser, well, file manager. It's mostly text. The only bits of like graphical stuff was just this little scope thing. But I think, I assume it's just using this much because it's got to run the Python interpreter, basically. I mean, WeChat is also using quite a bit, but I guess that's got quite a long back buffer that it can deal with. I don't know. But no, I like Ranger, but I think I would like to rewrite it in C. Take inspiration from it and just rewrite it in C, making it like use less memory. Also, I don't know if you can see here, the image has kind of scrambled itself into this little area here. I think if I try and highlight this, it will actually start to re-render that. Well, yeah. Similarly that. Yeah, so it's slightly broken. I'm not sure if that's to do with, it's probably to do with tmux actually. So that isn't necessarily Ranger's fault. Although, yeah, it probably is to do with tmux. Slightly broken. But yeah, that's generally the gist of what you can see there. So I hope that gives you what you want. I'll always be in this room, by the way. You're welcome. Yeah, I always leave this room open, so I just have WeChat running all the time. So if you want to chat, you can just pop into the channel, and you'll just see me here. I'm also in Hamid Networks IRC and Freenode, and you can probably find from this URL. I think you can probably find other contact information as well if you need it. So yeah, we just realised, hadn't we? We just realised that we were not absorbing the unit because we didn't have the permissions for it. We are apparently absorbing it now. So we're absorbing that from this thing here. Default medium again set to programming. Oh, right, that was it, wasn't it? We were seeing this. It was like, does this need to happen at all? Is what we were questioning. Weren't we? Like, what difference does this make when we do this? I think in both cases, we're ending up with the chapter being set, or rather the unit being set to chapter. So we're getting that there. And then again, we're getting it set here. Pretty sure that's from that run. Got a feeling that it did produce different output. Because when I did search down unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need to hit next 5 times to get to that chapter. Let's just undo that. Run it again. Right, yeah, and we're straight to the chapter. We're straight there. So we didn't have to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on a second. Let's search up instead. 1. Right. So this is the first result. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we need to jump up 3 things to get to the chapter. Right. 1, 2, 3. So we're back again. We got there again. So it's not producing anything different. Which is kind of bamboozling, I think. And we were getting to that thing. We were getting to this condition. Right, because that was the count. We had that counter and it was getting there 14 times. Oh, by the way, something that you can't see on the screen is the keyboard. The keyboard that I'm using is a... Do I have that? Yeah, that is right. So you're hitting that 14 times. Copying the scope contents. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if that is actually not even ending up doing anything useful. Because it could be that we are copying the scope contents and then later on actually just writing over it. Let's just again, because the thing we were trying to the thing that we're trying to catch here is siblings that are called the same thing. And just seeing what happens with their stuff. So we've got the unit set. We've got the default medium set, I think, haven't we? Yeah, we've got the default medium and the unit set. Let's just say that we don't set the unit there, but we set it in here. Now what we should be seeing is that we end up with one project within the risk. Well, actually, I'll tell you what. Let's also call these risky business, just to disambiguate them from the parents scope. Oh, and also in here, call that risky business as well. Just to definitely disambiguate between the things. So what we should see is that we've got a risky business project. We should have just the one, although we're initializing two of them in here. We should only get the one because when we come to see this, it should, according to this rule, be absorbing the contents of this guy. Oops. So here's this project. Should only see one of them, and yeah, we totally do just see the one. Now the title should be Risky Business 2, yep. The unit is chapter. And that's correct. And we wrote this so that this would actually happen, right? If this doesn't happen, so what I'm expecting to see here, we're going to come into here and we're going to hit this case. It's going to be, is the ID key. So what's happening here is that we've gone into this scope here and we're absorbing the fields of the parent scope, which will include stuff like annotator, owner. Oh, are they missing? I think they may be missing. Yeah, I think they are, aren't they? So that's where I think that's where we're up to, determining why they're not getting absorbed. Could be wrong, but I think that's where we were. If we don't do this, then what I would expect to happen is we will perform this check. When we come to this, we will say, is the tree, is the key of its parent's tree equal to our key, right? Our key being project. If it is, well, if it's not the same, copy scope, otherwise do nothing, right? But if it is the same, in other words, if we're looking at a sibling of ours, we shouldn't do anything. So we should see if this is doing what it should be doing. The risky business should get the risky business 2 title, but it shouldn't get the chapter unit, the unit chapter. but we still do get that. And that, I believe, should be incorrect. Shouldn't it? Oh no, actually, wait. No, this is what we want. Oh, and it's because of get scope, isn't it? Jesus. Right. Yeah, get scope is going all over all these trees. It's not a singleton, so it's got to see if the pairs match of the ID. So that's going to match this and this. If it manages to match those guys, then it returns this tree. Okay, so that is actually as intended. And I believe we are the include thing. Did we not say that so we're not setting the owner in here. We're not setting the chapter in here. We are setting the annotator and owner in here. And that's the thing that's not getting through, isn't it? So there's up here. So this is the project risky. There's the annotator and the owner. We then come down to risky business. And yeah, this guy's missing the annotator and the owner. For some reason, this guy then actually manages to get it. Similarly book. So it seems everybody's managing to get it, apart from our immediate child. Well, our first child. Because what should be happening, we pass this and put it onto the scope tree. Then we pass this, but first of all, we absorb the fields of our parents. Maybe, let's just step into this and see what it does. See what the parent contains. And I suppose more specifically, let's also see if this is anything to do with it actually. Let's just comment this out. And just see if the risky business project manages to get the annotator and the owner. It does. Right. That also gets it as well. this doesn't, but everybody else does. Yeah. Risk gets annotator. So, in providing this, the outer person fails to set its own stuff. Does it manage to set Riscalanius? It does manage to set Riscalanius. Interestingly. Default medium is set to speech as well. Well, yeah, it manages to set its own default medium. Right, so it's overridden that. It's overridden that, and it's managed to set the Riscalanius title. But what it hasn't done is absorb these. An absorb field, right? Absorb fields. It is just pushing. Well, it's doing copy scope contents. Push in pair, push ball pair. Copy scope. Yeah, that thing is pushing a scope. Ah. Is it? Well, hang on a second. What I was going to say was, is it pushing a whole new thing on and sort of overwriting, or really, it's not even overwriting, it's just sort of producing a thing that, like, kind of ignoring the stuff that's already set, perhaps. The outer file fails to absorb any people, and that isn't actually true, I don't think. Well, actually, was that the trouble? I can't remember if the trouble was this, or if it was this. Okay, so it makes no difference. So there's risky business. So we could also look up to here, couldn't we? So yeah, risky doesn't get that. Risky business doesn't get it. So yeah, risk doesn't get it. I guess risk is also now set here, isn't it? So that could be getting kiboshed. So book ain't getting it either. Nor coad. And we are doing this. Did I actually save the file? I think I did. Cinera included written. Oh, we should be able to see owner. Yeah, so those are never getting set. When we include risky in the outer file, fails to absorb any people. Yeah, and I think we're a bit stumped actually. Yeah, it's never getting set. I mean, is it just not getting set because we're getting to the start of the thing? Yeah, I mean, you would expect to see risky business at least to have got the annotator set. So yeah, there's just some funny business, isn't there? There's something dodgy going on. We're including something. We are successfully getting down to risky business 2 getting spoken about. Where's my cursor? Oh, I'm down there. Default medium programming. Let's just not set the default medium. So yeah, the default medium isn't being set for risky business there, but it is being set to programming here. So do we even get that through? We do get the default medium programming through. Let's just double check. And now we get the default medium trivia getting through. I don't know. It's just some stuff going on in here that I just do not follow. This should make, well, I guess I think the book one might actually be overwriting. So yeah, that still manages to get the trivia default medium. Yeah, I don't know. I think we might just sleep on this one. I'm not even sure if we've accomplished anything at all today. We did make one change really early on. I mean, we did do this, but we don't even know if this is even necessary now. The change that we did early on was in push project, wasn't it? It was in here. It was doing this get person. We were doing this on the wrong thing, weren't we? I think we were trying to set the wrong thing. So that's why that was never getting set. We were basically trying to set it to project count something or other, which wasn't correct. We needed to set it on the actual project itself. Where would that be? Yeah, the project, this project here. So we did manage to resolve that at least. But what we haven't managed to do is get the people absorbed. And it does just seem to be the people, doesn't it? Because like we've just established, at least I think we established, oops. Yeah, you get the trivia through. Yeah, but we're just not getting these guys through at all. Yeah, and I've got no idea why. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it there and just come back to it tomorrow, I guess. See if we can figure out what's going on. Because yeah, I've got no good ideas at all. It's specifically when you cite the, well, when you set the annotator or owner, or any of the people probably, when you set any of these in the included file, they fail to be absorbed. Oh, I'll tell you what could be potentially getting in our way. This person. Right. Because we're creating Miblo after including this. Okay, I don't think that made a difference. I was just wondering if that could have made a difference because it wasn't available previously. I guess also let's just try this as well. I mean, this one shouldn't make any difference because they get parsed into the same parse tree. And they also use, well, they get the whole thing tokenized. Yeah, still we don't get the people through. So that doesn't seem to make a difference. So yeah, it just seems to be setting the people here makes it not work for some reason. This is hero. So let's go to risky business. So the project book has got the annotators and the owner. Project risk has not got them. Nor has the big risky business guy. Right. The difference between the risky business and the risky business and the risk, and the book, the difference between those two sets of things is that the risky business and the risk are included here, whereas the book isn't. So I presume that the book is safely okay. Let me just write this off. Well, actually, let's put it. And I guess also let's just do the full thing. I suppose technically, well, it doesn't matter, does it? For this situation, the included file contains project risky business risk. The inclusion of that structure and it is only the people, isn't it? You know, we can still absorb the default medium and the unit. Where's chapter coming from though? That's been set there. Let's just kill that a sec. Yeah, that is right, isn't it? The inclusion is one of the is the out of half from other people. Not things like the default medium on the units. So we're absorbing, yeah, the default medium, trivia, and the unit chapter. So yeah, we are absorbing those. Although, is that the actual case? Aha. This hasn't absorbed the unit. Right, perfect. Player template, yes. Player template is also set up here. So basically, this, having that thing set out there seems to prevent any absorption. Yeah. In app, whereas this is in application. Where's that getting that from? Oh, there's in-app. Oh, it's capital A. So it's absorbing. So it's managed to absorb that from the included file. But when you come into here, you don't actually manage to set it yourself. Well, it's also absorbing and setting anything. Is that right? Let's just see if the book thing can set its own medium. Because currently, book club's run medium is set to in application, which it's set from in the included file. Oh, wait a minute, no it hadn't. The included file has in-app. So where was this being set? Yeah, right, so this is being set up here, right? This was being set up here, which the book guy managed to get. Let's make a note of this. So projects that are not So really what we need to do is we need to figure out how we're treating these guys differently. That's essentially what we're trying to do, what we'll have to do. How we're treating them differently, and essentially, I don't know, favour the, just somehow enable it to actually override stuff that's been previously set, I guess. Yeah, I think that's going to be food for thought. Yeah, because I've got absolutely no idea how to really tackle that just at the moment. So yeah, sorry if you came to the stream a bit late and didn't see anything productive. If you just saw literally just trying to figure out trying to describe the problem. Early on in the stream, we did have a tiny little correction that we did do. Yeah, in fact, I think the only productive thing we've done, literally, is that that thing in push project. It was changing this little thing here. I think that's all we've done in 3 hours. Wow, been 3 hours. Yeah, but we have started to work towards getting this other bit working as well, which we have to do. Got to get it working. And yeah, all the time that we spend doing it is time well spent. So thank you very much, Heroes and Heroines, for tuning in, for being fantastic and inspirational and beautiful. Until next time, farewell for now.